Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Force for Growth podcast. I'm Ricardo.
I'm Courtney. Good morning. Today we are going to discuss should we do something every day that scares us? Hmm, maybe, maybe not. So we're going to break it down and share with you our thoughts. So, hello and welcome. What do you think, Ricardo?
Well, let's see here. This came from a recent recording of the Power of Music podcast. We were talking about the sunscreen song, and on there it gives sound advice, right? And
Mm-hmm.
on there it mentioned do something every day that scares you.
Yes.
So you brought this up as a topic. You're like, this is something that needs to be discussed. I'm like, well, all right, Courtney. Well, then we're gonna discuss it.
Yes.
So,
But
what do you think?
yeah, well, I love it. I really do love that it's just a cliche because if you're scared of something, there's something there. Maybe there's possible growth there. Maybe there's inevitable growth there. And you are being sent this lesson over and over until you can open your eyes and see that this is something for you to learn. So I think there's definitely something there. I've always been one to say, hey, do something every day that scares you. But you brought up a good point. And whenever I mentioned this topic, and you told me you don't necessarily agree with it, and
I don't.
it got me thinking. So I want to first hear your thoughts on that before we break that down. So I guess let me first highlight what I like about it is that it teaches you to consistently look for the feedback that even though it makes you uncomfortable, you need to charge at this. You need to investigate this. You need to see what this leads to. And by all means, if it doesn't work out and it's not meant for you, like pivot, don't go with that. But like, how will you ever know unless you try? And just there have been the beauty of life lies on the other side of what terrifies me. That's what
It,
I'm learning. If I can confront this, it opens up a whole new dimension to life. And so that's what the lesson means to me and what I love about it.
I agree, totally. But now, see, here is
Break it
where
down.
my analytical engineering philosopher side comes in. The quote is not do something that makes you feel uncomfortable every
Hmm.
day. The quote is do something every day that scares you. It's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with the whole thing that you just said, that look for the uncomfortable, you look for the things that maybe you're reluctant of, right?
Hmm.
And do them and be reminded of and look for those things and understand that being uncomfortable is a part of life, right?
Right.
But that's not the quote.
Right. It's a great point.
The quote
Clarify
is
and verify.
the quote is do something every day that scares you. And that specific saying, that specific thought, that specific idea, I do not agree with.
I think that's a valid point and thank you for pointing it out. Okay. What
So that's the thing.
what would you alter it to or what would you elaborate on? Like what
Well,
would you
so
clarify?
it sounds so this is one of these things that sound good. Oh yeah, it sounds so good. I should really take that on. I should really do something every day that scares me. While I'm talking about this, I want you to look up the word scare while I'm breaking this down.
Okay.
Okay? So look up, get the definition ready for the word scare. So in theory, this sounds good. This is one of those self-development things that sound good in theory. But is it practical? That's what I want to talk about. Because I don't necessarily think that it's very practical to go out and find something that scares you unless you're scared of everything. Then maybe it won't be so hard.
Okay, looking at the definition of scared, yeah, I'm with you on this one. These
Break it
are
down. What's the definition?
okay, verb to fill, especially suddenly with fear or terror, frighten, to alarm. Verb to become frightened. Noun, a sudden fright or alarm, especially with little or no reason. Or a second one, a time or condition of alarm or worry. So I think there are better words we can insert there from
I do too, and that's my point.
something to do every day.
But again, I like the idea. I like the thought. I like the intention behind it. Whatever little frou-frou word you want to put in there.
Right.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
I like that.
So the
Okay.
word we're looking for, it looks like I see Jesse's comment when things aren't practical and it's hard to implement. Okay, so there's another word we're looking for, but that is the definition for what we're looking for.
It is the definition. So for me, it's kind of like, okay, should you be uncomfortable? Should you expect to be uncomfortable on a daily basis? I
Yeah,
would say yes,
I think so. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Because you're going to be doing something that's uncomfortable a lot of the time. But does it scare you? Mm.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Courtney.
Okay.
It's no secret you got a new job, you got a new
Yeah.
gig, you got a new
Yeah.
life, you got a new fresh start, whatever it
Yes.
is you want to say, however you want to call it, right?
Hmm.
Okay. Have you been feeling uncomfortable? Because you're 1 week in, have you been feeling uncomfortable?
Yes, that's a great point because this specific type of gig, let's call it that, I've done for a very long time. And I've worked with this company for a very long time. However, I had to go through a lot of steps, either required or just required by myself, just kind of between the company and my idea of starting fresh. And yeah, there were some crazy moments where I really got in my head about some things that, I mean, if I were to take a step back, I know what I'm doing. Like, I know, but it's that new mindset. It's that new fresh start. It's that I'm at this company. I want to make sure to show them what I've got. It's all this stuff that is uncomfortable, right? But every day I kind of just, same thing, just practice having that open dialogue with the people I need to and tell them where I'm at, talk real honest with myself about where I'm at. No blowing smoke up my ass, no like any like, oh, you did way better than you did. Definitely giving myself credit, but there's a line of accuracy, right? And
Yes.
so, but it was just observe, like, I don't know, thoughts that I observed were things like, oh my gosh, how will I ever get through this? And it's like, but you've been getting through this for years, and it's these panic thoughts like, I'm so new at this. It's kind of that ceiling, floor, ceiling, where we broke that down on many different subjects of podcasts. But basically, you're breaking through and then you have these high moments and then you have to break through things again, so it's ceiling, floor, ceiling. And if you can imagine like a very tall building, and anyway, we're kind of really not doing it justice here, but what it is I was on level like 10, but what does it feel like? Feels like I'm on level
One.
1, right?
Correct.
Because I'm banging my head against the ceiling and I'm like, can I get through this? And then you have that moment of growth and you're like, okay, and then you're on to the next thing. And so yeah, it's just I have big goals. And so approaching these big goals has caused me some uncomfort. And at the same time, I get better every time I hit it. So, yes.
Okay. So uncomfort,
Okay.
not fear.
Right. I think that's a
Uncomfort,
great enhancement.
uncomfort, not terror.
Let's see what uncomfort is.
Right?
Yes.
Right? Okay. So that's where I'm kind of like, okay, are you going to be uncomfortable on a daily basis? Yeah, there's going to be moments that you are, even if it's a little bit of uncomfort. Is it reasonable to say, do something every day that makes you feel uncomfortable? That's reasonable.
Yeah.
Look up the word uncomfort, like you just said, and give me
That's
that
okay.
definition.
I like this one a lot more. So, adjective is causing discomfort or distress, painful, irritating. The second one, which I like better, in a state of discomfort, uneasy, or conscious of stress or strain. Really like that. So, that right there, conscious of stress or strain. You're conscious, but it's stress, it's strain, it's not
Correct.
terror, it's not fear, it's not heart palpitations and panic attacks. Right?
Totally different things.
Yes.
Now, let me throw a loop for you. You ready, Courtney?
Yes. Always ready for your loops.
Are you capable of doing something once a week or once a month that scares you?
Definitely.
You know? And then when I think about this in particular, when I think scare, doing something that scares you intentionally versus putting yourself in in a scary situation, that's also kind of a different thing. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
If I said, Courtney, let's go skydiving, you would be excited, right? But would you also have a moment of fear once we get there?
Yes.
Yes.
Hands
So,
down.
and I'll say, hey, let's go skydiving next week. So then on that day, you're gonna have a moment of fear, but you volunteered to get yourself put in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Versus you're just scared of everything,
Yeah.
or there's fear everywhere. You volunteered to put yourself to that extreme. Jesse is correct. Ricardo will not be jumping again, but I
I
will be
wanted to
there to
make a joke
support
the
you.
whole time about how I still want to skydive. I've yet to. He has. He probably will not be returning, but
I would be
he was
there to
scared.
support you wholly and surely, for sure.
Every
Right?
time I've jumped off something major, I've just had people watching me. Nobody did it with me. So I'm like, one of these days, I'm going to get to jump off something with someone. But yeah,
One
I
day.
think that's a great point. And that's one thing I did note down about what I didn't like about it is it sustainable to use the word scared? Terror, like, is that really sustainable to attain every day? Whereas
Ooh.
uncomfortable, that is attainable. That is, you can sustain that. You can stay consistent on that. Because what, like, exercising can make you uncomfortable. Telling somebody you love them, you haven't talked to in a while, or that you care about, that you like, that you just met, that's uncomfortable. So the scale's up to you as far as how grand or how literal, like, get up and do 5 push-ups now. It's going to be uncomfortable because you're out of shape, Courtney. Like little things that it's just, you just got to do it. And then eventually everything's a muscle. That's kind of what I'm realizing in life. Like, everything is a muscle or a skill that once you confront it or pay enough attention about it, or maybe you don't care and you just need to stop trying to do that in your life. So everything fits in these categories, but once you categorize them, you can move on to the next skill or build the next muscle, and so when I think of things as in skills or muscles, and I'm just a few steps away from learning how to do that. And then once I know how to do that, it's on to the next. Like, when I put it in those terms, it simplifies things in my brain. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. You brought up an extremely valid point, and I'll say it like this. I'm going to use a pun. Don't we like
Okay.
puns? We
We
like
love
puns
puns.
here.
Pun
Okay,
intended.
so here we go. This thought actually scares me. What's scary is I didn't execute that very well. Okay. What's scary is that we know the power of words. So if you're attaching the word scare or fear that you're doing something every day that scares you, while it might not really be scary, but you're just saying it to just kind of feel good about yourself that you did something every day that scares you, what would happen after a while is that you could potentially think that everything is scary,
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really
right?
good point.
Like you could eventually get to the point to where you think that everything is scary because you're affirming it on a daily basis.
Mhm.
Even when it's just something that you're just uncomfortable with. It's not uncomfortable. It was something scary, so you could check off that box and say that you did something today that scares you.
Yeah. 'Cause let's highlight something we haven't yet that needs to be addressed. Some stuff is scary for a reason. Some stuff is terrifying for a reason, because you shouldn't go near it. Like,
Correct.
not yeah, so I think that's a very great point you're pointing out. Great
Correct. I
observation.
think that's something that we definitely have to take a look at because while I totally support getting out of your comfort zone, doing something that is uncomfortable, that's a different thing than like, I'm gonna,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go live on Facebook. I did my thing that scares me. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on. I
Yeah.
want to talk to a stranger. I did my thing that scares me. Come on. I know that because we're in self development, I should have this whole thing around me and be like, well, Ricardo, they're at different levels. Maybe because it's not scary to you doesn't mean it's not scary to them.
We aren't about to break down levels of scared. We're
But
gonna flip it into something else.
but come on.
Yeah.
Give me a seriously, that scare you. That put terror in your bones.
Mhm.
Come on.
Now, I do think there is power in jolting. Like, I'm trying to think of an example with myself, but you can throw one out if you think of one. But I think there is a lot of power in truly getting somebody into that scared state if they're willing. If they're, I'm not saying put somebody in a terrified state for a reason, but I mean, Tony Robbins, UPW, the Dickens process. If you've gone, you literally are pushing yourself to, okay, well, what would my life look like if I kept up all of these terrible things and
Mhm.
really truly laid into 'em more than I do now and lived the rest of my life like this and kept on this path? Like, what you're doing is you're driving yourself to look at your life at the utmost pain that you could cause yourself on this path. Yeah, there are people who agree and disagree with that method. Yes, it's drastic. Yes, it's crazy if you've been in the room while it's been happening. But like at the same time, if you've attended and gone through that exercise, it stays with you. And that's because you probably got yourself into a moment of terror, of fright, of everything very extreme. And then he gets you in that vulnerable emotional state where you can pivot and change. And then the rest of that day and that exercise is very powerful. So that's why, because you got yourself to such a broken down state where the foundation has just crumbled. And it's kind of, I didn't think I get emotional about this, but like you can go right to where you need to because all the walls are broken down. Whereas normally, how many walls do we have up protecting and guarding our emotions and ourselves and our defenses? Countless. So it's just there is power in it, but like I flip my opinion to agree with you, and that I'd say chase the uncomfortable, because if we can get comfortable being uncomfortable, what intimidates us, what scares us? However, we don't want to live in a state of fear and terror, and we
No.
want to live in a beautiful state, right? As Tony would say to end that example. So
You make a really good point, Courtney. You have to be real with yourself. You have to
yeah,
sometimes put you in that state. But I don't know daily, every day.
yeah.
We could argue about that one way or the other.
Because I'm one that tries to stay on the the sunshine and rainbows and like side of life. Like I really do, and my brain tried to, but like, let's face it, there are times where I'm being too easy on myself, and I'm like, hey, it's okay. The optimist in me, and it's like I got to come in with the realist and get in my own face and be like, no, this is happening. You caused this, or you contributed, or you're letting this still happen. So
Correct.
you got to have those moments with yourself. But I mean, it's the balance of it. So
Okay.
sustainability.
My final thought here is instead of trying to do something every day that scares you, expect to be uncomfortable on a daily basis.
Ooh, I like that, Ricardo. Yes. Yeah, because that gives me permission to charge after something new. And that gives me permission that same thing, pace yourself. If I'm working on something big and new, let's call it that I haven't experienced yet, I might need to spend a few days or a week on it. So I like that
Correct.
because that
Correct.
that holds space for all of it in a
It does.
healthy sense. And I'm not encouraging myself to have terror attacks.
No, we don't want that. All right, Courtney, this was a great episode.
I enjoyed it. Thank
This
you
was a
for
lot of fun.
alternate perspective on this. I really enjoyed that, Ricardo.
Hey, we got to keep it real, right? We're not going
Yeah.
to agree on every single thing that we talk about.
No, I like it.
All right. Remember, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember to follow and like us on Instagram at
Force for growth, and always remember to be a force for good
A Force for Growth.
and a force for greatness. Thank
Bye.
you, everybody.
All right. That's it. That's
Oh,
the recording.
man.
Good
Yeah.
morning, Courtney.
Okay.
It is 7:00
Good
on the
morning.
dot. We got a
I'm
couple of
catching up
minutes
on your
here.
wife's comments, and it was great. She said, yeah, make it easy. And if you make it hard, you won't finish, which that's exactly, I guess, what I was telling myself I've been doing.
So it's a beautiful Monday morning,
Yes.
and there's a lot of things going on in life today. It's the first Monday of August.
August
Yay!
2021. Did we ever think
August.
we would see it? Let's see. Last August,
What?
we were told we were going to have a Tony Robbins in person in Texas. and that quickly was reneged because the lockdown was then reapplied. So all that fun.
Oh
So here we
yeah,
are a year later, August 2021. That kind of flew by, but it's
that's a good
crazy.
point.
Yeah.
That's a
I
really
think
good point.
that's pretty cool looking back because I've participated and you participated in quite a few personal development events. So I like that that didn't hold you back. And you were a good example for me this last year.
It was pretty fun. I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, the year is almost over. We got 4 months: August, September, October. No, well, 5 months:
I just started sweating like when he
August,
said that.
September,
I was like,
October,
what?
November, December.
Did he mean to say that? And then he breaks it down. And I'm like, oh, he's serious.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
I
What have
know,
you
right?
done with the 2021, guys? Are you proud of what you've done with it so far?
That's a good question. I am. We got a lot of stuff going on. We got a lot
Yeah.
of projects.
Yeah.
We got a lot of
I
projects.
don't feel like any project's done, but I like how many projects I have going and I like
Ooh.
the tone of them.
You know what? That's a really good distinction to make today because people usually, typically around the first of the month, everyone gets all wound up and excited in a good way. Wound up
Mhm.
in a good way, excited in a good way about, oh, yeah, it's the beginning of the month. Let's set some new goals. Let's set some new this. Let's set some new that, right?
Yeah.
And so, what's interesting to me about that is like, okay, I have them going. The way that you worded that, I love it because they're not done. The projects
Mm-mm.
aren't done. Same here. But I am proud that we got them in the air and that we're working on them and that it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. That's really and plus I really had to eliminate well, a lot of it was BS made up in my head, so I'll own that first and foremost, but
Give me
just
an
eliminate
example. It's after
um
hours. Give me an example.
okay.
It's just free
So
talk. We
well,
don't
I
have to
had a
stay on
lot of
topic.
examples and now I'm like,
But
"Oh
I just
yeah,
need
cuz it's
one.
just us." Okay. Um no, just eliminating the bullshit reasons in my head as to why I was staying in a position I was in
Ooh.
and just it's neither here nor there towards, it just wasn't a great fit, but I could have really ignored the signs a lot longer, right? And I'm really happy I did not because this new venture and kind of what it pivoted me into is obvious. Like it feels very much like home and very much like where I should be, and that's a natural next step. And ironically, like it's just the fact that I talked to this person about this gig a year and a half ago and chose to go the other direction. And so it just has me thinking, not regretting the time at all, because I learned things that who like I mean that was the best boot camp ever, to learn the skills that I truly want to learn to do what I want to do. And so it's ironic because here I am in a position I could have taken a year and a half ago and I love it, but I wouldn't have loved it as much without the lessons and the pain and the beautiful moments of the last year and a half, right? So, I don't know, I'm just in a very analytical mode of it, but it's also teaching me I need to jump quicker. Like I need to make decisions quicker. And so what holds me back from my decisions? Just freaking analyzing everything. Like over analyze it. That's where we say, if you haven't heard it before, analysis paralysis. That's what it is. Just you're so obsessed with something that you just get like you just freeze and you can't move your body, you can't move your mind, off of it. And so I just have to learn to flip myself out of that. So often I do have to do drastic things, right? Or just I don't know, just so learning that. But so it's kind of an overall theme. I can't give you like one specific
I
example,
think
though I
that's a
could give
great
you 100.
example. I
So
think that's a great example. I've
thank
been
you.
putting off some projects myself, launching a course, working on some stuff that I've been wanting to work on. It's been on the back burner because my excuse has been I'm too busy.
Ah, oh, that golden excuse.
Oh yeah, because the fact is I am pretty busy.
And that's it.
I
You
got a lot of
are.
I got a
It's
lot of
not a
things going on.
lie.
It is a lot, but I'm like, okay. The truth
Yeah.
is that it just hasn't been a priority for me to put my courses together and put some stuff out there,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
That's the truth. It just hasn't been the priority. I can balance everything else. I'm getting to a place of balance.
Yeah.
And once you get going on the project, a juicy project, you're like, ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Big shiny, like, ooh, look at that. It sparkles. Yeah. Whenever
Correct.
you, okay, so thinking out loud, whenever you have that moment with yourself where you're like, okay, this is not a priority, or I am not giving the time to this that I told myself. Like whenever you have those moment of truth, does it clear up room in your brain for it? Or does it make room for more creativity for that project?
I never thought about it like that. That's interesting.
Because the reason I ask, because if I throw my hands up and I'm like, Courtney, you are not taking responsibility for being consistent, or you're not making this priority, or if I have those real comments with myself, it forces me to decide then and there if I'm going to do it or not, which sometimes throwing in the towel feels really good because you're like, oh, I don't have to worry about that anymore. Look at all this energy I can put towards other things or rest or whatever, But like if I decide to do it, it's like I have to make it a priority at this moment. And it like rejazzes it up in my brain.
Hmm.
But I'm curious what effect it has.
I don't think about it. This is kind of what you were just talking about earlier, that you overthink it. I don't think
Yeah.
about it that deeply. That's just the truth. I'm like, okay, it's time for me to get this going. It's got to be done. Is it work? Yes. Is it learning something new? Yes. Is it all of this stuff? Yes, yes, yes. It checks all those boxes that I don't even like to think about or give attention to,
Hmm.
right? At the end of the day, it has to be done. The end.
Yeah.
Period. Done. That's all that
Yeah.
matters. It's got to get
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
And
Which that's a great tactic.
don't even get me started on the why, because sometimes for me personally, the why don't matter.
Yeah.
The fact that it just has to be done is good enough reason for me to do it.
I've loved learning that lesson from you, and it's because well, yeah, it's some advice you've given me, but it's more for watching you go through your lifestyle like this, because how many times have you told me I'm sitting here trying to defend or something to Ricardo, and I'm like, "But here's why, and here's why," and he's like, "Stop it. Why does it matter? Why does it matter?" And so I do love that because it's very I want to say cutthroat, but I think a lot of us get hung up in the why, where other folks are like, the why doesn't even matter. Like, look at how much time we're wasting figuring out why. We could ask why all damn day long, right?
We sure can.
Or we could just do it.
Ain't
Like,
nobody got time for that.
yeah. And so, granted, there's sometimes you do need to ask why in your life, but not every situation. Okay. And I may or may not be talking to myself. So,
Ha ha ha.
yeah,
Good one.
unintended. But
All
yeah, no,
right.
that's a great point. So,
This was a good after show, Courtney.
this
Good chat.
was.
Good
This
chat.
was. I enjoyed
All
it.
right, everybody. Have a good morning. Have a great day.
Yes.
Let me pull up a quote.
Okay.
I got a quote here that I was looking at
Oh,
yesterday.
yay.
Michelangelo. We
Woo.
got some words of wisdom from Michelangelo.
Always a winner.
Classic. This is a classic one. Are you ready?
Yes.
The greatest danger for most of us is not that we aim. Oh, sorry. Let me rephrase this. This is after hour, so it's okay. I don't have to be perfect. The greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss, but that it's too low and we reach it.
I love that one. Yes.
Yeah, classic words from Michelangelo. There you
Yes.
go.
Man. Oh, that reminds me of the Les Brown, shoot for the moon, even if you don't make it, you'll land among the stars.
Yeah.
They're so it's like these greats knew something, right?
So,
Interesting.
what do we got going on this week? 6 a.m. call has moved to tomorrow. That's why we're on live at 6:30 on Mondays now.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yes,
yay!
because we can. Hey.
Because we can.
Mhm.
So the 6 a.m. call, 6amtribe.net. Go visit there. Come hang out with me, Courtney, and the rest of the 6 a.m. crew.
Yes.
And just for you guys who don't know, the call is uplifting, it's motivating, it's inspirational, it's all that good, fluffy stuff. But man, we also get real with each other.
Yeah.
We call
Mhm.
each other out. We're like, hey, that language, hey, this, hey, that, hey. Even I get called out and I start sweating like, what?
Oh, can we use that as a promo thing? If you want to see Ricardo be put in the hot seat, join us on our
It's a
6 a.m.
very
tribe.
comfortable thing. Yeah. I'll bring a topic, I'll talk about my thoughts about it, and then we bring the discussion to the group. And it's powerful. It's a powerful call. So join us on tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. Visit
6amtribe.net. And coming up on Thursday at 6 a.m., we are starting our next session of our book club, which we are reading Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. And we are starting it at 6 a.m. Thursday. So we'll be, are we going to go for a month, or will you break that down for us? But how long or how
Oh,
many sessions we're going to
we
do?
usually, like, I was just going to decide, but it looks like it's probably going to be about at least 7 weeks.
Okay. So we'll be going through most of September with this, but yep,
Yeah.
Thursdays at 6 a.m. all through August, and then a few weeks in September until we wrap it up. And it's not a book club like, well, I don't know. I've been part of some cool book clubs. So we aren't your normal one. We aren't necessarily going to only talk about and review the content of the book. We're going to really dive deep about what it brought up in us or lessons. And that's why we like to do it in bite-sized chunks, to be honest, is because we can pause and really absorb a chapter or two or a part of this book, 'cause this book has parts, and
Yeah.
then go and live it, and then come back and read the next few chapters together and discuss how that impacted our week, our life over the last time. So really unique take on it.
Yeah.
Y'all should
And
join us.
some of the chapters were pretty short. So it just, let's just say 5 to at least 5 weeks,
Yeah.
maybe more.
I was so excited to see that Simon actually reads it on Audible.
How
Ugh.
do you pronounce his last name?
Sinek? Am I saying that
Sinek?
right?
I thought it
Sinek?
was Cynic.
Cynic?
Who knows?
I could have been saying it wrong this whole
I
time.
think I'm saying it wrong. I
I
don't
just
know.
love his voice. Okay.
Either way, hit me and
Slight
Courtney
crush
up
on
if you
him.
have any questions. But you
Yes.
can visit the website to get on the 6 a.m. call on Tuesday, 6amtribe.net. And soon all of the 6 a.m. calls will be on that website instead of just our opt-in there. But
Yes.
you won't
Yeah.
miss any of the information if you just get on our mailing list.
Yeah. So if y'all been sitting here listening to us talk about the 6 a.m. tribe for 2 years and you haven't done it, that could be the thing that makes you uncomfortable that you should try. Because if the only thing that's holding you back is that it's at 6 a.m.,
It's time
come on.
to shake
What
it
else
off.
are you letting yourself be held back on? So come on.
For sure. Thank you guys for watching. And then we'll be back on Friday for
The Power of Music podcast. So
all right.
join us.
Bye.
Bye. It's hard not to do our